Welcome to the BlueHub YouTube channel. I'm Joe, I'm one of the product specialists here at BlueHub, and today I'm going to be running you through the reference books which can be found within the settings module of Cin7. Within these reference books there are a number of different topics which we can run through. Within each of these individual topics there are some core fundamental modules which I'm going to run through today. I'm not going to touch base upon all of these individual modules. Some of these modules we can leave to another video in the future where we can take a deeper look into those. In order to access the reference books, we can go into settings. From settings, we can go into reference books, and then from here we'll be greeted with all our individual options for this page. Again, this particular page is broken down into individual subtopics or subsections, and we can see these from the left hand side. So we have your company information, we have financial data, which could be from QuickBooks or Xero, or if you're not using an accounting system, it's the core financial data of Cin7. We then have some default field values we can use. We have other items, which is normally to do with additional attributes and your carriers. We then have some stock sections, some RMA and some CRM sections as well. So this top area I'm going to run through first is the Your Company section. From here we have two distinct elements which we can access. We have company addresses and we have company contacts. Within the company addresses, this is where you can enter in your address into the system. With your address being entered into the system from here, you can pull this into documentation, you can pull this onto delivery information, say for purchase orders for example, in terms of what location they are going to be delivered into. And this can be all indicated on the right hand side underneath the type icon. So we can either use billing, we can use business, or we can use shipping in this case. You can also access these addresses from the document references for your individual templates that you generate within the system. And it's always good to make sure as well as each individual one of these types, you should allocate one of these types to be the default address for that type, so it'll always appear as and when it is to be used within the system. Going back into our reference books and going into company contacts, this is where we can actually enter our individual contacts into the system for the either sales reps or for the main users of the system. Normally you would enter information into here where you actually want them to be receiving information within the system from documents or emails, or if you want to track them against a particular element of a sales order, hence a sales rep. We can also indicate this information from this drop down on the right hand side here for your different types. Also, if you're using any sale commission reports in the system as well, you can indicate the percentage of their commission from here. Same principle applies. Allocate a type for a particular contact and then make sure they are selected as the default for that type. It's always good to note as well is if a particular customer within the system has a sales rep assigned against them, they will always be given that sales rep as and when they are loaded onto a sales order. It will have a hierarchy effect and will override your default company contact within the system. Going back into our reference books here, we can take a look at our financial section. This financial section will change based on if you are connected to Xero, QuickBooks, or if you don't have a accounting software plugged into Cin7. The main parts which we are going to be looking at here are going to be your payment terms and your tax rules within the system. Allocating tax rules can be done within this tax rule option. If we click into the tax rule option here, you'll get a full list of tax rules which can be generated. It's always best practice to have the tax rule both set up inside of your accounting platform, QBO or Xero, and within inside of Cin7 as well. This ensures that both tax rules can be calculated correctly on both ends of the two different systems. If you aren't using a tax rule within the system, it is always recommended to mark this status as deprecated within the system. This is always going to make sure that it is not visible when searching for tax rules and reduces the risk of applying an incorrect tax rule to a particular entity within the system, whether that be a product, whether that be a customer, whether that be a supplier within the system. Going into any one of these particular tax rules within here, we can click into the tax rule, and then from here we can change either elements or settings within this particular tax rule. We can allocate a different name. We can change if this tax rule is calculated inclusive or exclusive. This is very handy if you're using the POS module or if your prices are inclusive of VAT. You can also make this be allocated to a particular liability account. We've had clients in the past use particular tax rates for particular e-commerce platforms, and they can allocate the tax from that platform into a particular liability account within the system. You also want to make sure your tax type is set up correctly. Normally your tax type is going to be the same as your tax rule name, just to keep that consistent between the two. At the very bottom down here, you can then allocate a rate for this particular tax rate within the system. So next, if we go into the financial section of the reference books, we can have a look at the payment terms element. Clicking into this payment terms is going to give us a full list of current payment terms in the system. Because our account is currently connected to QuickBooks, we can't actually add in additional payment terms directly into Cin7. We have to load these in from QuickBooks. So the current examples which are shown on the screen are all from our current demo QuickBooks account. You can see there's a couple of methods which are being shown here, which is our fixed number of days and day of next month. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to swap over into our other demo account, which is connected to Xero, and show you how that particular page looks within the system. So now we are within our other demo account. We are currently connected to Xero. We can actually add payment terms directly into the system from this particular page. If we press the plus button on the left hand side, from here at the very bottom of the page, we can then add in our individual payment terms of what we want to use. If I move my camera to the right hand side, we can then add in a 30-day, a 35-day payment term. You can't have duplicated names within the system, so these names have to be unique. And then what we can say with this 35 days, we can change this number of days element from here, and we can change this either to just a flat number of days, so 35 days from today, day of next month, so if you were to always do on the 14th of the day of next month, we can do the last day of next month as well, and then we can do number of days since the end of month, so someone could have 30 or 60 days from the end of this particular month, and you can choose these to your liking. If you have payment terms which are deposit based, you can't add these into the system directly, but normally what we get our clients to do is we'll have a name which will be indicated the individual payment type or payment term, which is going to be 20% up front, 80% after 30 days, and it'll be up to the accounts department to maintain that payment terms being adhered to. And then on the far right hand side from here is when we actually have our days which we can add in. We can change this number on the right hand side to the number of days which we need. So here we've got 35 for 35 direct days. And then if you are using a particular payment term which is always to be used every single time, you can then allocate this as default option. So now if we have a look at the other items within our reference books, we can go into the option of additional attributes. Within this additional attribute option, we have a number of attributes which we can create within the system. These attributes are very important for tracking custom data, but even more so, you can apply these to different entities within the system. So normally what we advise when we are setting up additional attributes is you have an attribute set per entity within the system. So you'd have an attribute set for your sales orders, which may only have one custom field. You'd have an attribute set for your products that may contain 10 custom fields, the maximum amount allowed. This allows you to section off all your different attribute sets and allows you to copy these into reports and onto your filter views when you're on the overview page to actually break down the data and add more reporting layers to your data. Normally the way these attribute sets are set up is if we take the sales order example one here and we open this up, we would have up to 10 attributes we can apply to this set. In this particular case, we've got a type of sales order, and this is a list view. And then from the values here, we can give some distinct values, which can be chosen from a drop-down menu. We've also got an age one here as well, which again is another list type which we can use. We could add a third one down here as well, if I was just to call this test in this case. And then we can add an attribute type, and we could have this just to be a checkbox, so it's just a yes/no option on that particular sales order. Or we could just have text, and if it's text, that allows the user on the sales order view to type information in. Normally text is going to be used for additional data fields which you want to track. You just have to make sure they are always entered as the same format. We always tend to go with year, month and day. At the very bottom here, we then also have a Shopify attribute as well, because with one of the latest updates within Shopify, you can connect your tags into a particular custom attribute and a custom field within the system, and it allows that data to then pull through into the system directly from Shopify, therefore allowing you to report on it within the system. Going back into our reference books from here, we can then scroll down and we can have a look at our stock element. A lot of the information within the stock section here is automatically generated when you import data from your products. So your product categories, your brands, your units and measure, they're all created when you do your initial import of products into the system. Some of the main elements of this particular page, which we can cover in other videos just because they require so much time to cover, is going to be your product discounts and your product deals. Product discounts and product deals can be applied throughout of the whole system, applying to customers, applying to individual products, allocating them on the POS and the B2B portal. This then allows you to have individual items for buy two get one free. Maybe it's 50% off a particular range. It allows you to allocate those deals separately to different products based on tags and to different customers as well within the system. As we scroll further down here, we can go down into our default field values within the system. These are very handy when you start having new people either using the system or you want to just pre-fill information out within the system. Going into our first one here, our product, we can open up a product, and if we know every type of product which we make within the system is always going to be a FIFO based item, we can just set it up so FIFO is automatically filled out for us because it is a required field when making a product. Same with unit and measure. If we know every single product we sell in the system, or a large majority of the products we sell in the system are just classed as items, so a 1 by 1, we can just default this to item. But the most important use of this default field within the system is going to be your attribute sets. And from here we can make these attribute sets actually apply, so when we make a new product is automatically picked for us. That gives us the options to add in our attribute sets straight away. And last but not least is, am I selling this product? Majority of the items that get added into the system will be sellable. Normally if they're component parts they're not, but with the sellable items you can then indicate that to be automatically classed as a yes for when they are sold within the system. What we will do in future videos is we'll take a deeper dive into some of these other elements and their connection with different systems. Some of these being, if I highlight them here, are going to be the account mapping and your chart of account codes from QuickBooks and Xero and how that gets pulled into the system. We can have another video as well which will cover the Cin7 core to Cin7 core networking and how that sends information between two different systems. As we move on to the right hand side here, we can have a look at how to use shipping zones and carriers within the system if you aren't using the platform like ShipTheory or ShipStation. We have some videos already which cover the automation module, and this is where your mailing list is going to come into play. And this mailing list is handy for either setting up just internal emails or external users who need access to reports on a daily or weekly basis. Coming a bit further down here, as I mentioned before, we'll have another video which is going to be covering the product discounts and the product deals within the system and how they can be set up and used and configured. And then again, another video which we'll be able to generate as well is going to be the RMA and how the RMAs are used for your returns and your warranties within the system, along with how the CRM can be used as well for different lead statuses and just the general use of the CRM. But what I would say, if there is any comments or if there's any feedback you want to give on today's video, if there's anything else you want us to demonstrate within the system and provide a video for everyone to watch, please let us know, and don't forget to comment, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.